CommHIT.
And it's now time to learn how you can be part of the future of space exploration from our three highly experienced panelists. And I'd like to welcome Natalie Colvin to the stage, Mike Lawrence, and Yvette Gonzalez. As a small business specialist at Kennedy Space Center, Natalie Colvin is not just an expert in her field, but a true champion for small businesses. She's dedicated to helping them thrive and contribute to NASA's groundbreaking mission. Her journey is both inspiring and relatable to most of us. Beginning in the rural landscapes of Lumber City, Georgia, where her family worked the land, led her to a career defined by resilience, expertise, and impact. Her professional foundation is rooted in her bachelor's degree in business administration and her early work as a contract specialist, where she supported the Air Force, Marine Corps, and NASA. And after stepping back to focus on her family and a fulfilling period as an educator, she returned to civil service in 2016 with renewed energy and purpose. She's answering her calling here at Kennedy Space Center, advocating for the unique capabilities and fresh ideas that small businesses bring to the table. Something that makes Natalie truly special is her ability to see the value in partnership, elevating small businesses and empowering them to shine on a global stage. And now I guess we can say a space stage as well, right? Her dedication to fostering collaboration makes her a remarkable ally for small businesses. Now I'd like to introduce Mike Lawrence. For over 47 years, he's been a relentless force in communities fueled by grit and determination. He's revolutionized workforce, economic, education, and community development with unwavering commitment. Mike's extensive experience spans local and state workforce board development with a sharp focus on driving growth in emerging sectors. Over the last 6 years, his emphasis has been on registered apprenticeship. You know that we did have that boot camp yesterday on apprenticeship, so Mike is, maybe you're the grandfather of apprenticeship in some ways with that 47 years behind you. So RA strategies are evidence-based. They're strongly supported by national initiatives. They strengthen the workforce pipeline and help communities adapt to evolving industry demands. His most profound achievements are rooted in Pennsylvania, but he does work nationwide, and we've even worked with Mike in the US Virgin Islands before a few years ago. So with that, I bring you Mike Lawrence. And Yvette Gonzalez, everyone knows Yvette already. Wonderful job being the panel moderator for Optic Health as well as Space Discoveries. All right, so with that, I'm gonna start out with asking you for each of you to kind of tell us your expertise on connecting people to the workforce. We recognize that all of your roles are different, and if each of you could talk about your role and also how does that tie into space exploration. Natalie, we'll start with you.
Hi, everyone. We're very few of us left, such an intimate room here, and I'm so happy that everybody stayed. I do have a quick video. It's less than a minute and a half that I'd like to show on behalf of NASA and Earth Day.
Yay! Yay, Earth! It's quality, not quantity in terms of the people, right? So we're doing great.
Kendra said, I was a teacher, so no teacher comes to teach without a bunch of materials. So here I am. I'm so grateful to be here today, and I am privileged to work for NASA. We have so much going on and so many wonderful projects, and I'm afraid we don't let the world know what we do. And so I hope to do a little bit of that today and connect you, any small businesses, any person, with NASA. So thank you for being here, and thank you for staying.
Hi, this is Yvette again. So I do work in the space industry as a spacesuit technician and a researcher. So I train astronauts, but I'm also an educator, and I do a lot of outreach, which I was excited to see the table of notes. Are you guys all still here, your team? Woo! Okay, that's amazing because you guys have diligently been here every day listening, and I saw how brave you were going up and talking to the exhibitors and asking questions. So that is like exactly what we're looking for, is how do we connect, make it accessible, and have conversations with the next generation. And I always say that the emerging generation is what I'm trying to focus on, sharing information. So I do a lot of outreach and education to make sure people know they can both work in space and in humanitarian and disaster response, because I also, for 25 years, that's also been my life. So I would say bridging conversations to people who normally don't have those conversations.
Great, thank you very much. And I'm going to talk a little bit in a little different text about work-based learning. I've been in this business, I think you said 47 years. It seems like time goes fast when you're having fun. But the interesting part about it is, again, work-based learning is a way to engage and customize your efforts. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit. But it's a perfect method to enhance, expand, or establish your opportunities in ways that can customize to the culture of your organization. I've had my experience working in rural areas, in work-based learning, and in workforce development through that whole time. What I've learned through this 47 years is this: it's all related. Things you never think were related to what you were doing are all related. I'll give you a very salient example for this topic, for this great conference. 45 years ago, I got a job being a workforce director. You know what my first establishment was? We got a big Appalachia Regional Commission grant. You know what for? To establish healthcare centers in rural areas, in remote areas. My job was to find the support staff. We could recruit the doctors, but I had to find the support staff. So what am I going to show an example later today? Finding some additional remote areas. It's just a little different. It's not rural Pennsylvania, but it's going to be how do we find different areas. So that's why you never throw anything away, and you try to keep that information. But again, it's a great opportunity to be here. It's all related, and I look forward to our discussions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So you know those shoes I had on yesterday, the last time, not the ones today, but the ones yesterday, the last time I wore those shoes was 1995, and that was actually the same thing I said. I was like, whoo, thank goodness I didn't throw these away. So we do have audience members who are wondering, how can they join the space health and human research community? So Yvette, you're doing research right now, and you have interplay with all sorts of different research organizations that you work with and commercial spaceflight entities. So can you give the audience some options on how to collaborate on space-related research projects, or even use data gathered to do their own research?
Yeah, and I have to say, I didn't start out in the space industry, so it was pretty intimidating and not knowing where to start, because in fact there is so much, right? NASA's like, everything's free, it's all online. I'm like, yeah, but then what? Then how? So I can say that if there are many opportunities for this generation that I am just so jealous of, because you can now work or volunteer in a NASA career and pursue that. You can work for any commercial industry company that you want to work with or collaborate with, and then you can do it on your own. You can start a nonprofit. There's so many options, but I think that's why now is a different time than 20 years ago or 40 years ago, where maybe it was just one track. And that's why I was deterred when I was younger, is I didn't come into the space workforce early because I thought, oh, I have to be military, or oh, I have to go into NASA, and I want to do other things. And I took a very divergent path. But today you have access online. There are internships for NASA that you'll probably talk about that are pretty accessible. We even have like Star, who's sitting here, our space nurse, who's a NASA Solar System ambassador. And these are kind of low-hanging fruit for people who want to pursue the government path, the agency path. But if you want to work in commercial, the tip of the iceberg right now, the easy, low-hanging fruit, is that there are so many opportunities for youth to be working internships, getting involved in going to school, and having access to job opportunities that weren't there even 5 years ago or a decade ago. And I would say those are low-hanging fruit because now my space health work and research is because I talk to people. I'm constantly asking, like, what do you do, and how can I do that with you, and can I bring somebody else along with me? You know, never closing the door behind me. So it's constantly asking, what are you doing? How can I do that, or how can I contribute, and am I useful to you? And I think it starts there.
Can you give someone a story about a time that you networked with somebody and you got into some sort of research project or something? Just give somebody an example.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, I want to work in space health, and I want to work with astronauts, and I want to put some experiments in space. And there's so many different people who said, here are different paths. But I was at a conference with a colleague, and she's like, come here, I just met this guy who's sending something to space. I'm like, oh, okay. I thought he was going to tell me how to do it. And in the 5-minute conversation, his eyes lit up talking to us, and he's like, wait, I need both of your skill sets. Can you be on my team? Would you be willing to work with me? Would you be willing to work with my country? It was all these questions. And we were, yes, yes, yes. The answer is yes. And if it's not yes, I'll find out. And it was literally that 5-minute conversation of him just valuing our skill set, valuing that we had something to balance the team, and then us saying yes. And it was completely terrifying. We didn't know what we got ourselves into. But then that's the best trouble to get into. It's like, I don't know, but let's try it out.
So Natalie, you've opened up many opportunities for small businesses at NASA Kennedy Space Center. What role do small businesses play in advancing space exploration through NASA contracting opportunities, and how could an aspiring business position themselves to be part of the space economy?
Okay, so we must have small businesses to make sure that NASA missions are successful. I don't know how many of you know this, but SpaceX, before 2016, was a small business, designated as small business. They, of course, are very successful at this point in the space industry. I do want to give you a couple of just material items that you might want to write down. If you're looking to do business with NASA, my office is always open. You can get a card of mine at the table down here. I want to give you another resource. This resource is known as techport.nasa.gov. And this is a repository of all NASA technology. And it's free. Just like you were saying, it is free. And it is a technology taxonomy database. So when you go there, and I happened to pull something up that I wanted to talk about that is free. It's as a result of a small business innovative research contract, not a grant, but a contract. And so there are things that the space program needs, and this particular one is an astronaut life support sensor. Now, how is that going to be utilized for the normal person? So for NASA, it's utilized as to enhance sensing capability to new generation spacesuit. How are we going to use that? Divers, and also we can have medical applications for the technology or portable oxygen generators and respirators. Now we think we have probably a great system right now for that, but it's not as great as what NASA can help you create. This is all free information. On the same website, there are schematics. You can go out and find on that website technology that is cutting edge and it's free. I'm going to give this to Kendra now, and go to the next thing.
All right.
So my next book is, I want to talk about the spin-offs. And the spin-off book is over here, also at my table. I think we have one more left. And I really want to talk really quickly about how NASA benefits society and how you can play a part in that. The space program focuses on spin-offs because the space program is for the benefit of humanity. We are a part of national security, no doubt, but that's not our primary mission. We are trying to ensure that humanity is living on the cutting edge. We have one place that we have not discovered everything, well, maybe the ocean as well. We haven't discovered everything that's available, and NASA is going there. We are going to Mars. How many can say that? Who can say that? Only NASA. And so it's really important that we understand what is available to you. What are we looking to do? You have to go really outside the normal train of thought if you want to do business with NASA. Now, having said that, we do everything. We run a small city here at Kennedy Space Center. So whatever you do, we need your services. But we also want you to expand your mind and go to those places that you don't normally think about. We want your technology. We want your thoughts. We want to know what you're thinking and what you think would help NASA achieve its mission.
Thank you. And Mike, how are registered apprenticeship programs shaping the workforce needed for space exploration?
Great question, and I will just say that in a couple opportunities here, in any new and emerging industry, in this case registered apprenticeship and perhaps pre-apprenticeship programs, provide a customized design opportunity to really embed the right kind of skills, the right kind of competencies for your employees and your employers. It also provides a roadmap for both the employee and the mentors and the team to bring together what are the appropriate skills necessary in order to master the craft, because that's really where you want to be. You want them to master the craft. It also provides an opportunity to embed the culture of your organization into that. When the three of us met last week along with Kendra to talk about our next steps, one of the things that we brought up was the fact that you normally have a set of skills and you add a space competency to it. So you're in healthcare and you're up as an astronaut for a while, then you come back down, you're still in healthcare, you're still an engineer, you're still a medical doctor. So oftentimes registered apprenticeship would be a great opportunity to overlay that skill, if you will, onto the foundation of the experience that you already have. So that's one of the ways that it can do that. One of the ways that would also benefit to be successful with registered apprenticeship, I like to say find your concierge that's going to be the person that's the group, the organization, such as CommHIT here, that could help you through that process. You know, you often go to your CPA for taxes, you go to your medical doctor for advice. Find this advice expert, whether it's that, and all context is local, so it's really conditioned upon the factor of what you may want to do. For example, if you have somebody that is blind, for example, Lane made a great presentation about services there. You know, again, pick out that context and allow you to look at that. And again, find that concierge to help look at that. So within any field you're looking at, whether it's STEM or healthcare or mechatronics or any of those kind of things, you know, you can look at those skills. The other thing registered apprenticeship can do is it's not just, it is a customized work process schedule for you to figure out what are the competencies of your employees. So the advantage of that is the fact that it may be a combination. Yesterday when we were talking about artificial intelligence, I got to thinking, boy, what a great opportunity to pick out 3 or 4 work process schedules or 3 or 4 competency messages, bring it into an AI to bring out what is the priority of your competency of your organization or of your employee for what you want to do in those areas. So it's a great opportunity that way. And the other part about it is that it can also be something that is a post competency thing. You may, for example, you may have a registered nurse. One of the things we talked about yesterday was a registered nurse in a remote area. So find somebody with that competency and then lay it over to healthcare in a remote area. So there's a lot of opportunities in order to customize that whole process in any field that you would like to look at. I'll close with registered apprenticeship on this question with the fact that there's a lot of really cool stuff going on in registered apprenticeship. Kim there is working with degrees in registered apprenticeship. It's not just a couple things registered apprenticeship is not. One is it's not just entry level. It's not just a registered apprenticeship or college, and it's not so there's a lot of those types of areas. So again, I'll close with that. It's just a great opportunity. And I'll close that it is embedded with the employer that they take the lead for the responsibility of the education and training. You remember your first job, whether it was mowing grass or whatever you're doing. Remember your first real job. I like to think registered apprenticeship is either your first real job or the first real job again for an opportunity to have a career path and a career opportunity. So I think it has great opportunity for people to utilize.
Thank you. All right, so I like that point about the concierge, and that is what CommHIT tends to do. We can't answer all of the questions. There's some gaps that we fill in because there's not somebody there to actually do it, especially in rural areas. But a lot of times what we're doing is just directing you to the right people in the ecosystem that you need and the specialty that you need to help you work out the kinks and where we're trying to go. So certainly we have an old-fashioned Rolodex of partners and specialists that we work with, and we're happy to share that with those who contact us. So kind of in the spirit of this kind of concierge and collaboration and just bringing partners together, can each of you touch on collaborations amongst government agencies, businesses, educators, or communities that are really needed to drive space exploration from each of your perspectives? Like not necessarily formal partnerships, it doesn't have to be that, but any type of collaboration that you think is required for this to occur. You can start if you want, yeah.
So one interesting thing you can look up now, and I know now it's changing and evolving, but if you look at the framework that the White House National Space Council put out in 2019, it was a roadmap for how we build our workforce in space, in the industry at large. And it wasn't just for government, it was bringing together public sector, private sector, nonprofit, they were bringing commercial. And the brilliant thing about the plan is it's a 3-phase plan that I think can apply to anything that you do to build workforce. And I use it when I'm with strategizing with other space agencies in other parts of the world. And that is, we inspire, prepare, and employ. And the prepare part is kind of equipping as well. So they think, how do we make sure that the emerging generation is inspired to be in STEAM jobs and be interested in the industry? And that's a whole broad spectrum, like Mike said. You don't have to be an astronaut. You have other options to contribute. And then how do we keep them? How do we prepare and equip them? And then how do we make sure that we lead them into either education or jobs? So those are the 3 phases, kind of structuring how they brought to the table. And they held roundtables for 3 or 4 years, where any given roundtable you were invited to as a member would be with maybe somebody from the government, maybe somebody from USAID, maybe somebody from Servier, and then maybe somebody in private sector. And you never knew who you were going to be speaking to. They just matched you, and then you turned up on this Zoom meeting, and you had a conversation about the true needs for each of those phases. And it was really interesting to have those kind of collaborations, because then uniquely we would say, oh, I'm interested in what you're doing, and I have students who are interested, can they work in your apprentice program? Or you would work with her and say, okay, people coming out of apprentice program need now to apply for the business accelerator, et cetera. And that was a very unique coming together of conversations that would have not normally been had. And so I think that was a great example. And it continues with informally now, but I think it's a structure and a framework for how we could have conversations like that.
I can go ahead and add. So I want to kind of start from the beginnings, because I know we have younger students here. So we have our Office of STEM Engagement, and young students, high school students, can become involved with NASA through internships in the summer. We also have our Pathways internship, and that would be more of your college-age students. So I'm kind of building on here for age groups. Then also you have your Small Business Innovative Research and Small Business Technology, they're called SIBR-SITTers, and I forgot my last acronym. But that works with colleges and small businesses. So they work together, they collaborate on research topics that are advertised annually, and that's another way to work with NASA. Also, you can now, we move on to contracts. So working with NASA as a contractor is very possible. And finally, I think we talk about partnerships. So we have commercial businesses who work with NASA through partnerships. We have businesses who sit on Kennedy Space Center through a partnership agreement. They have a land lease agreement for, I think it's 30 years, and then it's renewed. Don't know what the renewal is, but probably another 30 years. But they build their buildings on the land, and then they conduct business there. There are a myriad of ways that anyone can work with NASA. I did want to mention specifically for occupational health, those in that arena, that there are contracts. As a matter of fact, there's existing contracts for occupational health throughout the centers, at each of the centers for NASA. Johnson Space Center is the center that looks after the health and wellness of astronauts. They're primarily the center that does that. They have lots of contracts that utilize those in the medical field. So the opportunities are endless, really. You have to find your niche, and you have to also, like I said, you have to think outside of your normal thought pattern, and you want to make sure that whatever you're offering helps NASA fulfill their missions. And we have so many, and they're just incredible.
So I was thinking, when talking about these collaborations, what needs to be in place for rural and remote communities with that talent pipeline?
Well, one of the things Registered Apprenticeship does is that it does one job at a time. So you may say you need 200 jobs in some places, but in this case it does one job at a time. What it can do is it can reach out to find that talent in any place. Now, I'm an old rural workforce board director, and it gets a burr in my saddle if you see, oh, well, you're from this poor rural area. No, we have good people, talented people who want to do stuff. So I'm never going to apologize or say, well, I take a backseat to when I was in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, or Pittsburgh. No, we can belly on up to the bar with the best of them. All that being said, okay, so it's our responsibility to make sure we can help make that contact and make that pipeline. Registered Apprenticeship can help provide a sponsor, can help provide a mentor, can help provide local contacts, if you will, in order to help build that pipeline. So the beauty about again work-based learning and registered apprenticeship is you can research that labor market. Our keynote speaker earlier today said 85% of the jobs won't exist. You can start down a registered apprenticeship path, and those job skills can meander and be addressed during that time, because they're going to change and adapt and develop. And speaking of 85%, I got a text message today from a labor market group, Lightcast, that said in 2030, more than 85% of the jobs will go unfilled because the skills measurable aren't going to be located. Registered apprenticeship builds those connections, builds that collaboration we talked about in order to help do that. So you could be from, I oversaw one of the school districts in my region when I used to be a director, graduated 14 students a year. But we did our best to connect them to what are the greatest opportunities they can have. So, again, looking at the way to help connect those organizations can help build that structure. Like I said, there's a lot of cool stuff going on. There's a lot of ways to make those connections more so today than ever. So it's a great opportunity, particularly through those broader topics like healthcare, STEM, mechatronics, manufacturing, some of those types of things. So we can certainly do a nice job of orienting people to those contacts, asking the right questions and helping them down that path. I think it's a great opportunity, again, to help rural or remote areas, to help give those individuals the opportunities that they can avail.
Natalie, last question for you. So what steps would a small business need to do to work with NASA? And is there any general training or certification that they need to start working with your program?
That would be a whole discussion, and so what you would need to do is just contact my office. There are, across the nation, offices referred to as the Small Business Development Council offices. They are funded by the SBA, the federal government, state, and universities, but they are hosted by colleges and universities. And these offices will assist you in creating and building your business, and it's free of charge. So if you're interested in an SBDC, or if you just want to come and talk to me, I'm very happy to help you. The government doesn't have a preferred list of providers. That is illegal. That you can't have a preferred contractor. What we do is we try to be fair to all parties. So when we are talking to small businesses, I give them an opportunity to present their capabilities to me, and I try to match them with what possibly might be an opportunity for them, whether it's a subcontracting opportunity or a prime contracting opportunity. And so there's lots of ways to connect, but there are a few avenues that you can take, and I'm one of them, and I can help you be connected with others.
Great, thank you so much. So hopefully the group found that there are many, many ways that you can take a journey, take a path to get to space exploration, but hopefully the three of these panelists, our experts that are with us today, showed you some of the structure that you can take to kind of get on your way and start taking those steps towards work in space exploration.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
Just occurred to me. We talk about what are the access points, what are the programs to help, but there's also something really fundamental about being human and making the decision to evolve. And I'm curious, like, how many people here are in their first career? Like this is the job you've been doing. Second career, you evolved, you changed you into a second career. Third or fourth? Yeah. So I say that because we do evolve, right? We're a different, complete person every 5 to 7 years. Every cell in your body has regenerated. You are making different decisions. You are thinking differently. You want differently. And you have different skill sets. You react differently. And when I was working in Uganda, like 10 years ago, there was a young nurse. She was 25 years old. And everybody in northern Uganda after the war had dispersed, lost their jobs. The government had taken the money out of the health centers. And she had been there like 8 years, and she was helping me out, and I'm like, you're still here. Like, how are you still here? And she said something that I guess at the time had never occurred to me, and I think this is good for the scouts in the room and even for us who are maybe evolving into a new era of our careers. She's like, I made myself relevant. And I said, what? And she's like, I'm 25, and I knew when I started here as a teenager that I had to be indispensable. And I have many skill sets. I was willing to try to learn. I was constantly letting them teach me new skill sets, and I was always the first one to be willing to do that. And so when they did cuts, they were like, we can't get rid of her. She matters, and she is needed, and all her skill sets were needed. And I thought, what a tremendous realization that if you make yourself relevant and you feel genuinely relevant, you can evolve into a small business one day. You can do this. You can actually get into the apprentice and create your own path, but that we keep that aspect of, oh yeah, we have our own grit and decision-making determination for how do I contribute to the workforce once I'm in it. So that was just something I thought about.
I wanted to add for the youth in the room, I don't know if we're at time or not, but the best thing that you can do is learn to be a communicator. You learn to be a communicator, and you can do whatever you want to do. Never think that the person next to you isn't important, because they are, and they may change your life if you let them. So it's really important. When I go to an outreach, I tell the small businesses, they always want to talk to me. I'm like, I'm the least important person in the room. You talk to everybody else around here, and you can get more business by doing that, or more knowledge by doing that, than you can talking to the so-called expert, because I'm not one. A plug for rural America. As you can tell, I'm very Southern. I love that about myself. I had nothing to do with it. But I'm so grateful for my upbringing in rural America, because it teaches you a work ethic that I think we don't always learn. And I'm not the smartest person in the room, but I would dare any of you to outwork me.
And I'll just add real quick that there's some registered apprenticeship related
Yeah, I
links
was
in here.
going to get Chris to, I don't think we have them on the screen yet, so.
Oh, I'm sorry. What
So
I'm
Chris,
seeing
if
in
you
front
could
of me,
pop
but
them
the
up,
first place.
and then Mike, you
what I was-
can
what
tell
I was
them.
gonna say
Okay,
was-
go for it.
But the first place you ought to look is right here, CommHIT.org, because they have, as I said, they have a lot of skill set and talent here, and they do great stuff. So start there, and then pick on this other stuff.
And we will be giving everyone these slides, so we have a lot of resources for the space workforce piece, and then we'll make sure that we get these to everyone. Thank you all. Fantastic
Thank you.
information.
CommHIT,